jumps out at us is it says, as he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. Now, Jesus knew there was going to be a bad storm. He knew that. I mean, there's no question in the situation that Jesus, in his mind, knew that there was going to be a storm. It was not going to be a little rain shower. It wasn't going to be just a few droplets. That the wind was going to be powerful. The rain was going to be torrentious. That he knew also that the boat that he was getting into was not a good boat. He knew that. I mean, he knew that this boat was not going to be up to the standards of the winds and the waves and the storm that was about to occur. And so you would think that Jesus would be like, hold on a minute. It's going to be a stormy ride, so let's get us a strong boat. That's what we need. If we're going to survive, we need a strong boat. But it's not what Jesus did. And the crazy thing is that Jesus is the Son of God, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, most perfect and holy person, and he accepted the idea of riding in this lowly boat. He did. And so the crazy thing is that Jesus knew what was going to happen, and he knew the boat wasn't up to it, and yet he got in the boat. And he didn't even tell nobody that there was going to be a bad storm. Wasn't even up front about the situation like, hey, guys, Peter, disciples, are you sure you want to follow me? Are you really sure? Because it's going to get difficult, the rain's going to come, and it's going to be bad, man. And this boat, it's not going to be great. That's not what he did. And so Jesus gets in the boat, and you know what happens after that? The disciples get in the boat. They get in the boat. And they get in the boat because they trust Jesus. But you see a different picture here than later on in these verses. As they step in the boat with Jesus, here is their mindset, it's all good. We're with Jesus. Everything's going to be okay. And then in the middle ways, what happens? Everything ain't okay. But who's still with them?
Jesus.
Jesus is still there. So we find that they followed Jesus, and this was the most important step of their life. The one thing that they did right was they got in the boat that had Jesus in it. That's it. I mean, if they had got any other boat any other day with this massive storm, you would have had more problems. Because it's one thing to be in a storm in a boat that's not that great with Jesus, but it's a whole nother issue to be in a death-defying storm by yourself. That's worse. And so the disciples knew that they don't know the future, but they know Jesus, and Jesus will save them, and he'll be there. So you and I have to realize that we have to make the right decision on who we choose to follow. Who we choose to follow. And one of the most amazing truths in the world is you decide what you want and who you want to be. And you're never going to be less than that person. You're never going to be less powerful than that person. And so you and I oftentimes experience things without warnings, without danger, without anybody telling us. How many times has something very difficult happened in our life and we got a letter in the mail about it 6 months in advance? It doesn't happen, right? Like, nobody tells you when they're going to die. They don't send you a letter 6 months in advance. Nobody tells you when it's going to get difficult and you're going to lose your job and all this stuff is going to happen. Unfortunately, they do not have an organization that informs us of these without warning situations. So the decision that we have to make is we have to ask ourselves, who are we going to follow? Because you and I cannot control the current circumstances, or any circumstances. How many of us in here can control the coronavirus?
No.
Can't do it. Yeah, I mean, you can say, hey, you need to be a better virus and get out of here. But it's not gonna listen to you. So we have to be concerned about what can we do in our own lives, because that's the only thing that we can control. Now, there's two outcomes here. In our boat, in our situation, if we decide to listen and follow something that's created, then here's what's going to happen. If you see this nice little picture here, okay, of this eggshell, that's what happens when you and I trust in things that are created. Because things that are created, when I say created, that means when we put all of our trust in people, when we put all of our trust in our possessions, in our bank account, in the stock market, in wisdom, whatever it is, at the beginning, it looks very strong. It looks like something that it doesn't matter what would happen, that it would be safe. And then all of a sudden that blow comes, and it just ends up in a disaster. And we can't control sometimes the blows that come into our life. But when we choose to trust in Jesus, when we choose to trust God instead of this, we have this.
There you go.
And this is what you want. Because it doesn't matter what comes at this, it doesn't matter what it is still going to be standing. It's still going to be strong. And so we have to come to the reality that sometimes we can't get rid of the problems. We can't get rid of a disease, a health problem, a provisional problem. We can't get rid of these problems. But we can trust in someone who can help us through these issues and help us survive and on the other side. Because when we trust in Christ, when we trust in God, by asking Him to help us, by putting our trust in Him that He's going to take care of us, then what happens is the outside circumstances may not change. They may be completely the same. But when we're done, we come out on the other side of life. And so the question you and I have to ask ourselves is, who are we following today? Who are we listening to? And we know who we are following by who we're listening to. And so if we're listening to our money, if we're listening to, our friends, our family, Facebook, fake news, whatever it is, when we listen to all that, some of those things are not bad, but when we listen to all that and let that determine the next steps in our life, here's what happens. It may work for a little while, it may work for a little while, it may work for a little while, and then boom, it doesn't work. But when we trust in Jesus, it works today, it works tomorrow, it works the next day, and then when the difficult times come, it works still. Because He is greater than any sickness, any disease, any provisional problem, anything we experience. So if we look at this, so Jesus, everybody's in the boat, and they're going along, and they're going along, and they're going along, and everything's going great, and they're all sitting there like, we got Jesus. This is so great. We have no worries, nothing bad. It's going to happen to us. And then, all of a sudden, something bad happens. And you see, it says that suddenly. Now, you know what suddenly means? Without warning. Like no warning whatsoever. Suddenly there's a violent storm arose on the sea so that the boat was being swamped by the waves. Now, here's the reality. We don't get concerned about a storm. That's not what we get concerned about. The disciples did not get concerned about a storm. That was not their issue. Their issue was this storm was so strong that the waves were coming over into the boat. And when you're on a boat in the middle of the Sea of Galilee, you know you can't breathe underwater. You're not a fish. That boat is between you and death and the other side, because you're not going to live for water for eternity. And so they were concerned because this water is filling up the boat, and the boat was what was keeping them safe and alive. And if the water kept going, if those waves kept overflowing the deck of that boat, then they would have no chance. So what do you think Jesus is doing right now? What do you think? Is he concerned at all? I mean, it's just crazy. So they're all concerned. But Jesus kept sleeping. Jesus kept sleeping. So the disciples came and woke him up, saying, Lord, save us. We're going to die. Man, I tell you what, just the faith in that sentence is so amazing. It's so amazing. Like, wow, we love Jesus. Jesus, can you wake up, because we're going to die. We're going to die. And they have Jesus on the boat. The creator of the whole world. Like, how does this work? And so the disciples' issue was they had a focus problem. They had a focus problem. Because here's what they was doing. They was looking at the wind, and they was looking at these waves, and they was measuring how deep the water was getting in the boat. Okay? So like they was looking, and maybe at 1 inch they wasn't concerned. But then it got to 2 inches, and then it got 3 inches, and it got 4 inches, and 5 inches. They said, look, we have let the man sleep. As long as we can, we have to wake him up. And so they wake Jesus up, and he's in there sleeping. And they tell him, Lord, save us. We're going to die. Well, here's the reality. This was a little premature. It's a little premature. Because they were disciples. They were humans. You can't tell the future. I can't tell the future. Nobody knows what's going to happen. The disciples didn't know what was going to happen. But they made a proclamation that death was coming and calling for them. When that was not even true. It wasn't true. Like, do you think that these disciples God would have let Jesus and these disciples drown in the Sea of Galilee? He would not. He wasn't going to do that. But these disciples, they made proclamation number 1. We're going to die. That's what they said. So, Jesus is sleeping. How's that possible? How's that possible? So here's a great picture of fearless and freaking out. Okay, Jesus is over here sleeping. Everything's going on. The disciples, save us. We're going to die. They are what you were calling freaking out. And it's because they have all the wrong focus. Like, they're focused on all this stuff that is temporary, that is creation, when they have the creator of the world in the boat with them. And so you and I, we have to make a decision to change our focus. Because we cannot change our circumstances sometimes. Now, we may wish that we could. You know, we wish that we could make everything better, heal everybody, everything be fine. But we cannot do that. We cannot do that. And so we have to come to this realization that sometimes we're asking God to fix the situation. We're asking Him to get rid of the situation. And we feel like that if God could get rid of the situation, that would be the solution to the problem. That would be it. But the wonderful thing about God is that there is another option. That's just option. That is an option. God can get rid of stuff. But here is the second option. And the second option is that God, instead of just getting us out of the situation, can allow us to survive through the situation. And the most beautiful thing about God is that none of the dangerous facts can change. And you and I can be completely safe and protected and survive. And that's what the disciples, they didn't grasp that concept. So we have to ask ourselves, where is our focus on when without warning, danger comes into our lives? You know, sadness, pain, suffering, the consequences of our own decisions. When we experience these things, you know, are we ignoring the fact that God can bring us through this? That nothing in the world can change, and He can bring us through these situations. Now, when we choose to focus on the problem, you know how many people fix a problem and focus on the problem? No one. No one. Like, it doesn't matter how long you look at a problem. It doesn't matter how long you talk about a problem. It doesn't matter how many different ways you say the problem's a problem and it ain't never going to change. That's what happens. When we focus on the problem, we let the trials and the tribulations and the problems of our life take our life and do this to it. That's what we do when we focus on the problem. But when we focus on God, we may be in this situation, okay? Our lives may be in a million different pieces. But the beautiful thing about it is there's not one point in time during the year which you can apply. And then after that time's gone, God's blessing is not available. It's kind of like when I had this job, when I got out of college, you know, they have health insurance. And here, let me tell you a secret about health insurance. They give you a certain window. Certain window. And I don't know why they're so crazy to do that, but they give you a certain window. And they say, hey, if you have anybody you put on your insurance, you need to tell them. Put them on there. And after that, you know what happens? Blessing no longer available. So, if you know and have been around me, sometimes I forget things. I forget them, you know, like I don't understand. And so I was getting all these emails about this open enrollment time, you know, and all this stuff. And time passed by, and I thought about something. I was like, you know what? I probably needed to ask them about Samantha. And so I emailed the sweet lady. I was like, hey, what about my wife? And she's like, oh, it's too late. You missed it. And so for that whole year, Samantha wouldn't have no insurance, and I was, because I was so forgetful in that open enrollment. And the reality is that, see, God's blessing, God's peace, is not like an open enrollment period. It does not matter how in trouble you are. It doesn't matter how much you've destroyed your life. It doesn't matter what the world has done to you. That at any point in time, when you are struggling, you can choose to take your eyes off the problem, off the circumstances, off the problems and pain that you've experienced, and you can begin to put your focus on God. And you know what happens when you put your focus on God? You realize, like, hey, I have a bad health problem, but I know God is the healer. And I know that even if He doesn't heal me, through Jesus, I will die and I will go to heaven and I will be perfectly healthy. You know, or maybe, you know, maybe there's a big financial hit and we're concerned about provision. And in that moment, you know what we can look at? We can look at and say, I don't know how we're going to make it, how we're going to eat, how we're going to live. And in that moment, we can take our eyes off creation and we can put on the Creator and we put on God. And we can realize that God is not dependent on the stock market. Now, I mean, He's not. God's not dependent on us. He's not dependent on anybody. And as long as we trust in Him and we love Him above everything else, you know what's going to happen? He's going to provide for us. That's it. Now, I didn't say He was going to give us everything we wanted, but He promises. We love Him above everything else. We give our lives to Him. No matter what's going on in the world, we'll be provided for.